You're a monster, Mayor Pete. Your heart's an empty hole. Your brain is full of spiders. You've got garlic in your soul, Mayor Pete. I wouldn't touch you with a 39.5-foot pole. Merry Christmas, USA, and welcome to another episode of the Bernie or Bust Show. As he attacks Medicare for All, Mayor Pete gets campaign cash from healthcare executives. Look at all these logos. Big Pharma, Pfizer, Merck, Biogen, Mastex, Johnson & Johnson, a litany of evil. Buttigieg's recent transformation into explicit Medicare for All critic was accompanied by continued donations from pharmaceutical and health insurance interests. Alex Koch, October 18th, 2019. You may think this is old news, but you'll understand why it isn't in a moment. 37-year-old South Bend, Indiana mayor and presidential candidate Pete Buttigieg has undergone a dramatic shift in healthcare policy in less than 2 years. Responding to criticism of his vague healthcare policies in early 2018, Buttigieg declared on Twitter that most affirmatively and indubitably, unto the ages, I do favor Medicare for all. Later, as he entered the Democratic presidential primary, he landed on a kind of compromise, a single-payer option he likes to call Medicare for all who want it. And he also sells waffles. That lets him show support for those frustrated by the high costs and substandard results of the American healthcare system, while preserving the profit-driven forces that have contributed to that system. I think that's called having your cake and eating it too. Now, as he continues to promote his plan, which critics call Medicare for some, he's taken an antagonistic approach to true Medicare for all as proposed in the Medicare for All Act and to his opponents who support it. Senator Bernie Sanders, who wrote the damn bill, and frontrunner Senator Elizabeth Warren, who is co-sponsoring and continues to support it. Her daughter probably doesn't. In a new digital video ad from Buttigieg's campaign, corporate consultant and former Facebook executive Joe Lockhart says, Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren believe that we have to force ourselves into Medicare for All, where private insurance is abolished. Lockhart co-founded Glover Park Group, a corporate consulting and lobbying firm with current and recent clients in the health sector, including Boehringer Ingelheim Pharmaceuticals, Horizon Therapeutics, Intuitive Surgical, and Sanofi US. Pharmaceutical, health insurance, and hospital industry donors have flocked to Mayor Pete all year. Imagine that. As of mid-2019, he was second only to Donald Trump in overall campaign cash from donors in the health sector. Among Democratic candidates, he was second to former Vice President Joe Biden in terms of pharmaceutical and health insurance donations. A sludge review of Buttigieg's recent third-quarter campaign finance report shows that as he rails against Medicare for All, executives and other managers in the health sector have kept the money flowing. Over 100 individuals in leadership, legal consulting, or financing roles in health sector donated $200 or more to Pete for America between July and September. These donors include pharmaceutical industry leaders such as the Chief Corporate Affairs Officer at drug maker Pfizer, the president of Astex Pharmaceuticals, a state lobbyist for Biogen, a vice president of public policy at Novartis, and the deputy vice president at the nation's largest pharmaceutical trade association, PHRMA, as well as attorneys for AbbVie, Johnson & Johnson, and Merck. The donors identified by Sludge gave a total of close to $97,000 to the Buttigieg campaign in the third quarter of 2019. Below are these donors, employers, occupations, and total amount donated from July through September. Quarter 3, 2019. Ka-ching! 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 The Buttigieg campaign provided Sludge with the following statement. Pete has always supported making Medicare or a similar public health insurance vehicle available to all Americans in order to achieve universal health care. He consistently describes his health care plan as a pathway to Medicare for all. Which is likely why the health insurance industry has attacked his plan. That's probably why they're flocking to him. For instance, our campaign website says if private insurers are not able to offer something dramatically better, this public plan will create a natural glide path to Medicare for all. Simply put, he has the same end goal as some of the other candidates in the race, but differs on how to get there. And if you believe that, I've got a number of wonderful bridges to sell you. That idea that there's a pathway, what they're not saying is that the public option will have to take all of the difficult to insure people, all of the expensive to insure people, and that will save money for the private insurers. And so it's not a glide path anywhere that's going to help people who really need health insurance. It's a glide path to keep us gliding away from what's good for the American people. Health sector interests include pharmaceutical manufacturers, health insurers, and hospital groups generally oppose Medicare for all, as it would allow the government to negotiate down drug and care costs, cutting into industry profits. Ka-ching! We don't want that. Democratic Party political groups have accepted significant amounts of money from lobbyist bundlers, and Pete just recently made the decision to hide his bundlers, who have pharmaceutical and health insurance clients, as Sludge and Maplight have reported. In July, Sanders created and signed a pledge to reject all contributions over $200 from the PACs, executives, and lobbyists of pharmaceutical and health insurance companies, urging his opponents to join him. Biden, who did not sign it, has, like Buttigieg, reaped the benefits of large donations from industry executives. According to the Center for Responsive Politics, Buttigieg's campaign has received $1,266,225 from individual donors in the health sector through the third quarter. Mayor Pete is no stranger to special interest support. His very first successful political campaign was fueled by lobbyist fundraisers, as the Center for Public Integrity, TYT, reported, and as of July 2019, this year's effort has been led by 94 contribution bundlers, or well-connected supporters who raised at least $25,000 in campaign checks for him. See what old the Humanist Report has to say. Figueredo.
In order to deflect, he basically throws Bernie Sanders under a bus randomly.
When you did that sort of cost and overhead assessment for Blue Cross Blue Shield of Michigan, a couple of years after that, they laid off like 1,000 people. Was your work part of what led to those layoffs?
Yes, it was.
I doubt it. I don't know what happened in the time after I left. That was in 2007 when they decided to shrink in 2009. Now, what I do know is that there are some voices in the Democratic primary right now who are calling policy that would eliminate the job of every single American working at every single insurance company in the country.
So just pause for a moment and reflect on what he just said. In order to defend the consulting work that he did with McKinsey and the loss of jobs that, his consulting facilitated, he is saying that Bernie Sanders essentially wants to do the same, because if you offer Medicare for all, then what's going to happen? Well, that will lead to the collapse of the entire for-profit health insurance industry, and everyone in that industry will lose jobs. First of all, a loss of jobs is preferable to a loss of life due to a lack of health insurance. Second of all, that assumes that Bernie Sanders isn't actually going to establish a just transition, so that way people who currently work in the health industry and they're just low-level secretaries and whatnot wouldn't be able to get jobs in Medicare. So this is one of the most disgusting deflections I've ever seen, and again, this is all to defend the work that he did at McKinsey. So, in spite of Edward Isaac Dovier's attempt to portray his work at McKinsey as something that wasn't really that big of a deal.
That was an article I found yesterday, and there are lots of reasons not to trust it. I was wondering as I first posted it and then I pulled it down again. I'm not going to call much attention to it, but you can look and watch the whole clip and read the article if you'd like to. But I think you'll agree with Mike Figueredo that it's not fair and it's not true.
This was seemingly benign. That's not actually true. His work at McKinsey was problematic, and it's because McKinsey is a disgusting, disgusting company. And really, you know, when it comes to disaster capitalism, as Parker Malloy puts it, he is the shock doctrine candidate. And that's exactly it. This really tells you a lot more about Pete Buttigieg, but this isn't surprising to people who already vetted Pete Buttigieg and knew what he was. This is a ghoul. He doesn't care about policy. He cares about his own career and attaining power. That's it. That's all he cares about. That's all his career has been about up until this point. You know, he's running for president as a mayor, not even qualified to be president, and the history that we see is that he failed as a mayor, and his work at McKinsey proves that he is the ghoul we all suspected he was. So if this doesn't turn voters off to Pete Buttigieg, then the media has not been doing their job, because if you are participating in a Democratic Party primary and you care about the issues, you cannot support Pete Buttigieg. But yet he's polling in...
There you go. You cannot. And if you watch this show, or you watch Mike's show, or you watch Crystal Ball or Sagar on the Hill, and you can still support Pete Buttigieg, then your heart is an empty hole. And you've got garlic in your soul. Or worse. Okay, so we're gonna end there with that. I've got more, but I'll save it for another show. But you really need to look into Mayor Pete's disaster capitalism for McKinsey. I'm just figuring out what McKinsey's all about, and I'm just figuring out the kind of work he did. His campaign is trying to spin the work he did as bean counting spreadsheet stuff, but what it was a lot worse than that. And that's as much as I know right now, so I'll keep digging into it, and I hope you will too, because it's very ugly. The first part I told you about health insurance donations, that's ugly enough. That tells you all you need to know. But if you look into his work at McKinsey, you'll find out more about his rapacious and careerist tendencies. So we'll see what more develops. There's another angle that's coming up that Crystal and Sagar talk about, how Mayor Pete and Elizabeth might just take each other out. They might start sniping at each other and then clear the path again for Bernie and Joe, for it to just be a two-person race. And the sooner that happens, the better, because Joe isn't going to make it. I predict if we can clear the path and it's a two-person race, it's going to end before July, that Joe will cede the race to Bernie before July even gets here. And then it would be a very merry Christmas present late, but I'll take it late or early, I guess, if you're looking at 2020. Alrighty, see you tomorrow. Keep on burning. Get on board the Bernier bus train. Come get on board the Bernier bus train. Once you hear that clickety-clack, there ain't no time for turning back. Oh, get on board.